Rick Dale and his crew were the most qualified to bring back the pristine condition of the priceless antiques found in the attic. Their success led to the creation of the reality TV show The American Restoration. While it was airing, the show was a smashing success, and viewers were eagerly looking for their next chance to win. After the show's cancellation in 2016, his once fascinating career took a nosedive. What happened and why the show was canceled is still a mystery to many. A terrible accident started it all, although many people still don't know that. Find out what happened before the terrible disaster and why it was the last straw that killed off the American Restoration in today's film. Talking about Rick Dale, the man behind the American Restoration, is missing an essential component. Unlike most people, Rick Dale has always loved old things. As a kid, he had plenty of people around him that he could help mend up. He devoted much of his time to the repair industry before television became popular. On December 13, 1970, Rick came into this world in Newport Beach, California. He came from a family that valued problem solving and pushed him to use his imagination. Rick and his brother Ron inherited this interest from their father, an Army veteran who always harped on the need of fixing things rather than replacing them. An inherent curiosity has always been there in Rick. He used to take things apart at home and put them back together over and again when he was a kid. He found antiques especially appealing due to his admiration for their practicality and aesthetic value. Rick was a careful adolescent who got his start fixing things like bicycles and rusty equipment. In his spare time, Rick started working as a repairman. After finishing high school, he did various jobs, but his love for fixing things never wavered. He began his day by fixing his father's old Coke machine. Friends and neighbors requested him to do similar work because it went so well, which gave him the idea to make it a business. Rick started Rick's Restorations in Las Vegas, Nevada in the late 80s, which was a daring move on his part. In its humble beginnings, the company dealt in the sale of antiques and used machinery. Over the years, Rick became famous for his abilities to restore broken antiques and his painstaking attention to detail. Collectors began to take notice of his art, and his clientele expanded over time. He became famous on the History Channel, which led to the creation of his show, American Restoration. Before that, in Las Vegas, Nevada, Rick Dale ran a small but successful business named Rick's Restorations. Outside of collector circles, it didn't receive much attention, but its quality and meticulous craftsmanship earned it praise. Particularly when it came to restoring antique Americana that stirred up deep emotions, Rick was a pro. He repaired antiques, jukeboxes, light signs, gas pumps, and Coca-Cola machines. These weren't Band-Aid solutions. To make sure everything worked as it should and looked the same as when it was made, Rick checked every part. The storefront itself was a simple functional office. A specific area is reserved for the various repair processes. Took it apart, fixed it, painted it, and put it back together again. There were a lot of tools lying around, some of which were broken, and a lot of unfinished projects that showed how much effort had gone into each item. In those days, it served more as a location to get things done than as a mall or tourist attraction. Antique merchants, proprietors of small businesses, and individual collectors were Rick's principal customers. His fame was limited to the area and among individuals interested in restoring antiques that had not yet spread across the country. Rick had little problem obtaining work because, to his dependability, competence, and genuine passion in preserving the history of each piece. Running a business like this was no picnic. Rick was working on a number of goods that were in bad shape when they initially arrived at the shop. There are a lot of broken, missing, or rusty parts. New components for things that were decades old were hard to come by. On occasion, Rick had to make the parts from the ground up to make sure they were perfect. Although certain jobs were difficult and time-consuming, the end result always spoke for itself. The restoration business took notice of Rick once he was spotted by TV directors. After seeing his dedication to his work and interest in the history of the objects he restored, the Americans started the restoration process. Following the show, Rick's shop, and abilities were widely recognized. But before the show, it was just a guy's business where he loved to give old things a second chance. The only show that improves the flavor of food by giving it a lot of backstory is American Restoration. An interesting History Channel show called Pawn Stars is where the story of American Restoration starts. The Las Vegas pawn store served as the backdrop for Pawn Stars. People brought all sorts of strange antiquities to trade or lend. Some of these things needed fixing before they were even remotely useful due to the extent of their deterioration. It was then when Rick Dale intervened. His repair business, Rick's Restorations, was already under his ownership and operation. It was considered a top performer in its industry. The Pawn Stars crew required a mechanic for an old Coca-Cola machine at some point. When they called on Rick, he responded admirably. Rick was not just highly competent on the equipment, but he also had great enthusiasm and communication skills while describing his work. Rick was well respected by the staff of the prior channel for his insightful commentary about the item's background and the challenges of giving it a modern appearance. Rick, they thought, could fix everything on his own program. This was the way they told him. Show that chronicled Rick and his crew as they refurbished antiques, including light signs, gas pumps, and jukeboxes. In each episode, they would show viewers how to fix an old, broken item so that it looks and works like new again. In addition to the task at hand, they would reflect on the significance of the items and the people who had contributed them. The filming was done quickly because Rick approved of the plan. Upon its October 2010 launch, American Restoration was an instant hit. In addition to marveling at the remarkable changes shown, viewers loved discovering more about the past. The event was already a blast, but Rick's infectious energy, skilled crew, and interactions with his family wife Kelly and son Tyler kept the good times rolling. At the end of each episode, the customer, who was almost always amazed, was shown a massive exhibition of the repaired item. Many viewers believed the show was fantastic because of that delightful and surprising moment. Rick and his crew ruled American Restoration for a solid 6 years. After Rick's presentation, a lot of people sent their stuff to Sin City in the hopes that he could make it disappear. Those who watched the first 6 seasons of American Restoration had a better understanding of Rick's Restorations, a shop in Las Vegas run by Rick Dale and his team that restores antiques. An instant sensation with fans of nostalgia and restoration, the series was known for its superb craftsmanship, captivating characters, and moving stories. The employees and customers of Rick's shop were introduced in the pilot episode. A variety of antiques, including barber chairs and gas pumps, were restored in each episode. Rick and his team went to great lengths to honor the stories that people brought in, many of which were deeply personal or historically important in their restorations. Tyler, who was Rick's preteen son, worked at the store. He was still finding his footing, but his dad would get irritated by his careless attitude every once in a while. The witty grandchild of Rick, Bretley, who has a soft spot for blunders, and the sluggish but skilled picker, Ron, who is Rick's brother, round out the group. Working together, they brought a sense of camaraderie and fun to the show. The projects showcased in the exhibition showcased a gradual progression from simple to intricate and diversified. Rick would buy things to fix and resell every now and again, and Ken and customers would bring in things like neon signs and old stoves. The show became more engaging and educational with the inclusion of Rick's tips, which taught viewers how to fix common problems. During this time, the importance of family relationships grew. The business division of the store was run by Rick's wife, Kelly. She organized the crew and dealt with consumers. Additionally, Rick proposed to Kelly in a spectacular display that touched viewers and brought the event closer to home. Disagreements arose on the crew when Tyler was simultaneously appointed shop manager. But by the mid-seasons, Rick had established a regular pattern of performing repairs. There were usually 6 to 12 simultaneous projects going on at the workshop. Exotic motorcycles and miniature railroads are both possible examples. Nico, a painter, and Leonard, a picker who loved to seek out buried treasures, were among the specialists on Rick's growing staff. Longtime employees like the brilliant but tough metal cleaner Cowboy and the hardworking finisher Kyle were still crucial to the shop's success. Despite the team's extensive skill set, the colorful personalities of its members ensured that things never got old. Rick's patience was often tested by Cowboy's gloomy outlook and Ron's lackluster work ethic. As a picker, Bretley began to show his mettle. The way he handled a transaction in only one episode stunned everyone. Rick struck a good mix between setting high standards and making sure everyone felt like family. It wasn't long before American Restoration was a hit by season 6. The squad tackled some of its biggest and toughest challenges to yet. With each fix, their skill and imagination shone through. The Thing's history stayed front and center, highlighting the sentimental connection that buyers felt to their belongings. As Bradley became more confident in Tyler's abilities and he took on more responsibility, the shop grew. Kelly ensured the company stayed on track in her managerial role. Letting Rick's imaginative concepts grow. American Restoration's first 6 seasons were top-notch due to the show's skill, history, and enthusiasm. The crew's personalities mirrored Rick Dale's dedication to restoration. Their chemistry and quirks made the show more interesting. Every event paid tribute to the power of restoring the past, from the spectacular restorations of rusted antiques to the heartfelt audience responses. Even though Rick's Restorations has moved on to other repair shops, it is still a treasured and popular reality TV component. Getting things fixed wasn't the exclusive objective. It was about restoring art to bring joy to people while also honoring history and preserving stories. Tragically, though, things went wrong in season 7. Season 7 saw major changes at the History Channel. Rick Dale and his team at Rick's Restorations decided to bring in other repair shops from throughout the country instead of just themselves. More variety and new viewpoints on restoration were to be showcased. Unfortunately, Rick the Showstopper was diminished by this change. Those who loved the pilot were let down because they cared about Rick's shop and his employees. Viewers of American Restoration began to dwindle with time, as is typical of reality TV shows. Since people's tastes change over time, it's possible that fans have moved on or stopped consistently watching after a few seasons. It was challenging to keep the attention the show had before garnered due to the showcasing of numerous shops, and the show's new direction failed to draw the same audience. Several comparable television series had already begun airing by the time American Restoration ended its run. The Counting Cars, Pawn Stars, American Pickers, and other shows about antiques and their restoration. This leaves less room for American Restoration to be distinctive. Viewers may have felt they'd seen enough of the genre as it gradually lost some of its originality owing to the proliferation of comparable shows. It costs a hefty penny to make a live show. When shooting and editing are complete, actors need to be paid, and props need to be put back where they belong. All of these factors affect the final cost. Even if the show is a smashing success, networks may not have the financial wherewithal to finance its production, and sponsors may not see a return on their investment. When the show's ratings started to fall, the network may have determined it wasn't profitable to keep funding it. Some networks may be interested in trying out new formats and rearranging existing show schedules. One possible explanation is that they felt American Restoration had reached its limit, while another is that they just did not wish to air any more restoration shows. As time goes on, new television shows often take the place of older ones. This is a direct outcome of viewers' evolving tastes and the necessity for television networks to adapt to new situations. Rick and the producers have remained mum on the topic of why his crew was noticeably absent from season 7, prompting a plethora of speculation. Nobody could guess why, of course. While his fans were confused about what had transpired, Rick made a video requesting that they vent their frustrations on the official American Restoration website. Still, he remained mum on the subject of their departure. Excuse me, after amassing a fortune for years restoring classic automobiles and soda machines, the American Restoration celebrity has branched out to other endeavors. Rumor has it that Rick's Restorations, which is now closed, might reopen at some point, but not with Rick at the helm. Rick has been doing experiments since the show ended. As one example, he established the embroidery and laser cutting company My Best Font Forward Creations. Also, Classic Soda Machines was written by him. You can find this on Amazon. Rick loves nothing more than to spend time with his family, his wife Kelly, their kids, and their grandkids. He is back to living it up with his family after taking a break from the repair business. As a teenager, Rick Dale's son Tyler made an appearance on the show. The family business would be his to inherit someday. Even though he seemed destined to follow in his father's medical career path, Tyler has decided to stay in the repair sector. He is still making use of the skills he has learned in the craft. Even though he's good with welding, ironing, and water jets, He hasn't posted anything on social media since 2020. Classic and muscle cars were among the projects he worked on, as he mentioned in his latest posts. Camp, Possibility, and Vegas Shepherd Rescue are just two of the organizations that Tyler has volunteered for. No one knows where he is or what's happening in his private life, but he seems to be continuing making art and helping his community. Bradley Otterman, who was Rick's grandson, became famous on the show for doing the boring jobs that nobody else wanted to do. But after the performance, Bradley decided to convert them into a business when he quickly became known for his sandblasting skills. He bought out a floundering Las Vegas mobile sandblasting firm, and now CleanWorks Mobile Media Blasting is booming. Bradley has made a decent living by putting his skills to use. The company now runs 3 blasting rigs. He calls Las Vegas home with his wife, Steph, and their 3 kids. He loves being with his family and expanding his business. Cowboy was one of the first crew members that Rick had. He was known for his skill and his ruthlessness. Cowboy has remained relatively unknown after the tournament concluded, reflecting his desire to avoid the same level of fame as his fellow contestants. He has not been seen in public and does not have any public social media accounts. It has been speculated that Cowboy may be residing peacefully on a farm. Not at all well known. His extraordinary abilities and his need for privacy are what viewers of the show remember him for. After leaving the program, Rick's little brother Rondale decided to pursue a new hobby, making bicycles from scratch. In his home shop, he crafts one-of-a-kind motorcycles. He fondly recalls his time on television. It would appear that Ron is happy with his newfound calm and contented life as he pursues his passion of making motorcycles. Rick Dale's wife, Kelly Dale, was heavily involved with the show's production behind the scenes. Payment of bills and customer service were both taken care of by her. By the time American Restoration came to a close, Kelly had found a job in real estate and was doing quite well. In addition to her active social media presence, she occasionally hosts car exhibitions. Moreover, Kelly serves on the board of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Her entrepreneurial spirit shines through even though she manages a family and a business. Kyle Astorga used to take things apart and put them back together at Rick's Restorations. He is now focusing on something completely different as far as his career goals are concerned. As a hunter and guide, Kyle departed from Restoration's realm. In New Mexico's Cimarron Valley, he worked more than 45,000 acres. Being a former rodeo performer, he has extensive experience with bulls and broncos, making him an excellent trainer. He finds solace in the woods, far from the hustle and bustle of the spotlight and social media. There are cases where a bad ending isn't necessary. Even if the show is still popular, it's unfortunate that the show had to end, but Rick Dale and the rest of the crew are doing fine.